One of the problems with recruiting for investment banking is not the knowledge or skills you acquire, but the access to talk with real investment bankers to put your best foot forward. Our sponsor, WSO Academy, can provide those connections with 60 head mentors who are finance professionals at top firms like Goldman, Centerview, and JP Morgan. Imagine being able to get on the phone within 24 hours with one of the Academy's 1,300 mentors right before a critical interview. Get on the waitlist for WSO Academy today by clicking the link in the show notes or by visiting wallstreetoasis.com/academy. All right. Welcome to Investment Banking Insights. This is the only show dedicated to helping you learn both the technical and non-technical aspects of the investment banking process. Hello, my name is Alex Mason. I am your host, recording live from Ithaca, New York. Let's go ahead and get into today's question. We're talking about mergers and acquisitions today, some of the more advanced topics. Today's question is this: how do you handle dilutive securities in a merger model? How do you handle dilutive securities in a merger model? Now, when companies merge or acquire one another, it's not just as simple as adding up the assets and liabilities from both companies together. We know this already from our discussions about goodwill, deferred tax assets, deferred tax liabilities, etc. But the one thing that we haven't talked about is dilutive securities. Dilutive securities are something we talked about on the show many episodes ago because they do have a very real effect on a company's books and the capitalization of that company at any given point in time. So let's go ahead now and talk about them in the context of mergers and acquisitions. So if a company has options or convertible securities, how do we handle this when that business is acquired by another firm? Well, the easiest option here is to just have the purchasing company assume, quote unquote, these securities in the context of the merger or the acquisition. And what I mean by that is that if a company has options or convertible securities, they would basically be detailed in the purchase agreement and the acquiring company would just take them. So remember, the purchase agreement, this is that legal document that identifies how the purchase is going to take place, what the assumptions are in the deal. And it's very, very important. So in this purchase agreement, it just might be assumed that the acquiring company just kind of takes over these securities. So for example, if the target company, say, has $100 million worth of stock options that exist, the buyer might just kind of transfer those over to their own books once the deal is complete. The other option is a little bit different. It's a little bit more tricky, but still very logical. So the other option is for the seller to turn these dilutive securities into cash. Remember, cash is the most liquid of all assets. So in a business combination, sometimes it can make sense to just kind of convert things to cash, and it's a lot easier to account for. But there's another reason. The dilutive securities might be in the money. So it might just make sense naturally for these securities to be converted to cash. So it just has to make sense as far as the math goes. For example, if the target company has stock options and the exercise price is below the price the shares are being purchased at, well, that's the definition of in the money. So what you would do is use the treasury stock method in order to calculate the dilutive effect on the outstanding shares. And if you're unsure about the treasury stock method, we covered this way back in the early days of the show. So go ahead and check out one of the early episodes in the accounting section where we discuss treasury stock method. Now, another example is if you have convertible securities. So in this case, you would just convert those securities into shares of stock based on the conversion price. So if you had a conversion price that was exercisable at $5 per share, but the stock is now being purchased at $10 per share, well, you can now exercise that conversion and calculate everything from there. Okay, So that's basically how you do it. You account for dilutive securities in a merger model either by assuming they just get transferred over to the buyer or they get cashed out through the calculations that we've discussed previously. That's what I got for you today here on Investment Banking Insights. My name is Alex Mason and I am your host. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Take care.